Pnawn da pawb, a chroeso I chi gyd. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our event this afternoon. If this was in the depths of January, I think I'd be saying good evening, but it seems so afternoon-like still. I think we'll go with that for the moment. As you've just heard, tonight's event is being recorded, and we will send you the recording link following the event, which you're welcome to share. My name is Colin Reardon. I'm the Vice-Chancellor of Cardiff University. I'm actually in my last 3 months here. I finish at the end of August after 11 great years. Well, I think they're great anyway. I've certainly enjoyed it. My successor is Professor Wendy Larner, who will be joining us on the 1st of September, our first female Vice-Chancellor of the University, which is very exciting. Wendy's an internationally respected social scientist, and I'm really delighted to be able to hand over to such an excellent appointment. It's been a great privilege to represent Cardiff over the years, and I want to thank you, our loyal supporters and attenders. Thank you very much indeed for your support during this period. We had the first of these in the depths of lockdown, and it proved so it must be 3 years or so ago. I don't know how many of them I've done, but they proved so popular that we've kept them going, and I'm sure that they will continue into the future. So we come to tonight's topic, and it has actually been in the news really rather a lot recently, and many of us will have been potentially affected by this, and that's of course cybersecurity. We do occasionally, in fact, far too often, read about data breaches and hacking of personal data in the news, and I'm sure that some of us will have found that our own data has been accessed in a criminal, potentially, and certainly unauthorized way, as we are all aware of. So it's extremely important that we have ways of making sure that the systems, which are such an integral part of our lives now, do remain resilient and safe from attack. And here at Cardiff University, we are bringing together the relevant, very high-level research expertise, the resources, and the education to promote and provide robust cybersecurity. And we do that by working very closely with industry and governments. And we're thinking about the future as well, about inspiring computer scientists of the future. So whether we're talking directly about cybersecurity systems or artificial intelligence and how secure that is, there's a whole range of areas, as we all know, from banking to traveling and flying and so on, whatever it may be, that absolutely depend on this. So I'm really delighted to say that our speakers this evening are both proud Cardiff alumni. They're Professor Pete Burnap, who's the Chair of Data Science and Cybersecurity and Director of the Cardiff Centre for Cybersecurity Research, and Dr Yulia Cherdantseva, Senior Lecturer and Director of the Academic Centre of Excellence in Cybersecurity Education. Both Pete and Yulia are co-directors of the recently launched Digital Transformations University Innovation Institute, which has been set up so that we can really make sure that we're at the absolute forefront of research into digital transformation, bringing together researchers and innovators and people from industry right across the disciplines so that we're at the cutting edge of the digital transformation that we're all part of. So that's my introduction, and now it gives me great pleasure to hand over to our speakers, Peter and Yulia. When they've spoken, we will have the opportunity to ask questions, so please do put any questions you may have in the Q&A. We've had some put to us in advance, so we'll start with those, but do think about questions as we go along. So, Peter and Yulia, croeso, welcome.
Thank you, Colin. Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to be here, and thank you all for joining. As Colin said, I'm Professor Pete Burnap. I lead the Centre for Cybersecurity Research here at the university, and I'm going to give you a 10-minute overview really on what we do in the Centre for Cybersecurity Research, and I'm going to then actually give an example of how we use AI to defend against cyber attacks in real time and some of the work that we've done with our industry partners. So it'll be a very brief overview, but the point really here is to whet your appetite, and if there's of any interest, we can follow up. I'm more than happy to come and show you around our labs and test beds and so on. So Cardiff University is an academic centre of excellence in cybersecurity research, as recognised by the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is the public-facing arm of GCHQ. It is and remains the only academic institution in Wales to be so. Actually, there aren't many of them in the whole UK, so we're quite proud of that status. And Yulia will follow my talk and give you an overview of our academic centre of excellence in cybersecurity education as well. So really briefly, elevator view, or elevator pitch, if you like, for the research that we do. We have a number of different areas, and I'll start with risk assessment and modelling on the left-hand side of your screen. We're really interested actually in how you can understand risk and cascading failure. Risk traditionally has been looked at through the lens of assets, vulnerabilities, and spreadsheet-based impacts. It really doesn't consider interdependencies, supply chains, and cascading failure, which is a massive issue in cybersecurity at the moment. So we're quite interested in that area, which feeds into risk management and communication, how people apply governance and collective decision-making and incident response. You'll notice on the far left-hand side of the screen, our academic research has come from computer science, criminology, psychology, law and politics, and business. And this middle pillar here is a real area of strength for us in psychology in terms of understanding how people make decisions under pressure and how people communicate. And indeed criminology in terms of how people collaborate under and during cyber attacks. This then feeds into our third pillar, which is AI for threat intelligence. So using AI to detect and respond to cyber attacks in real time. So we developed the first published approach to detect ransomware, for example, in real time within 4 seconds of it executing on a computer, and we actually stopped the process within 4 seconds and reduced file encryption by 90%. So real impact in the work that we're doing. But also we're really interested, and this is where the Colin's reference to the topical activity at the moment in the news is, we're really interested in the security of AI models themselves. So, you know, AI effectively is becoming a new frontline threat vector. It can be attacked and it can come under manipulation, which is a real sort of potential issue for us, and a lot of discussion about that. And we've been researching that for a number of years. You'll notice then the little blue line that goes all the way back around to risk assessment and modeling. This is because effectively, we don't just want to set an alert from your AI saying there's an attack going off. We actually want to relate that to risk. How does that affect our business process? How do we communicate that? How to make decisions on that under pressure? So it's an iterative and real-time cycle. Across the top, running across the top of your screen is human factors. So as I said, this is a core strength for psychology in individual susceptibility to cyber attack, motivations to commit cyber attack, and that's actually where law and politics come in as well. Trust and dynamics and social factors of cybersecurity. So how do people work in groups as security policy for organizations? But also, you know, as we move to a more AI-enabled future, how do people engage with data-driven responses to cyber attacks in real time? We're not just going to replace security analysts. We need to have a sort of a harmonious environment. And we're looking at how people can interact with AI, how they learn to trust AI or otherwise, but also the cognitive overload factors and potential of AI, and how we can do that sort of collaborative environment and keep people working together and sort of more effective 24/7 coverage. I won't go into too much of the other detail, only to note that we have strong industry partnerships and we're looking to develop those. With Airbus, we have 2 centres of excellence based around secondments, long-term PhD support and undergraduate placements, the development of new IP and intellectual property and solutions that have been translated into Airbus. Thales, we're working a lot with the Valley region in terms of upskilling and looking at energy systems and connected vehicle security. We launched a year and a half ago our new MSc in cybersecurity and technology with PwC. So we're really looking to work with industry partners and stakeholders on the development of new skills programs. One more thing I'll mention just before I move on is the Cyber Innovation Hub, which is a Welsh Government and Cardiff Capital Region investment in the translation of academic IP and any IP, any idea, into a commercial venture. And we're looking at working with the Alacrity Foundation, or we are working with the Alacrity Foundation, which is just down the road in Newport, to bring in entrepreneurial graduates and actually build commercial teams around academic inventors to get more of that academic IP to market, alongside, of course, the work that we translate into our industry partners. So any of that is of interest, I'm more than happy to pick that up later. So for the second half of my talk, I'll give you an overview of an example of some of the research that we do, and I'll use the Advanced Security Operations Centre example that we've worked on with Airbus. So we've all got antivirus, I hope we've all got antivirus on our computers at home, which works based on detecting a new piece of software that lands onto your system and matching the code behind that piece of software to known code that is malicious. And your antivirus will update itself regularly with those, if you like, fingerprints of code. But attackers are becoming more sophisticated in the way they deploy their attacks, so they can actually hide much of the identifiable features by running stuff in memory and encrypting some of their activity so that you can't actually see it. Therefore, antivirus doesn't always work in those scenarios, which is a bit alarming. So Airbus set us the challenge of how can we actually learn then what is difficult to hide? And we actually looked at what we call in here system level activity metrics, your computer memory use, the data that was coming in and out of your system, the memory that your system was using, some of the processes that were running on your system. These have been classified in the literature as low severity events, effectively things that you can't hide. You have to use and interact with the computer, which is going to generate some sort of system level activity that you can't hide. Only 9 of those metrics we used, and we actually thought, how can we collect these in real time and use these to detect something that is encrypted or in memory or hidden in some way by an attacker? And our solution to this was to create what we call DNA profiles of malware. So what we actually did was collected per second behavior from our computers as things were running on it. So if you can imagine, I open a PDF or I launch an application, immediately it's starting to do things on the computer, and I can collect that behavior every second. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen there, a profile of increased and decreased measurements of things like your memory use, your data coming in and out of the network over 5 minutes, which gives us a profile of that piece of software. Now, what we did then was took thousands of samples of benign software, thousands of samples of malicious software, and actually collected those data. And then we developed an algorithm to divide them up and look at what was good behavior and what was bad behavior. No reference at all to their code, no reference at all to anything that would be examined, just literally based on their behavior. And the approach effectively worked in the same way as you can see in the bottom of your screen here, bottom right, where we had, if you like this example, a load of different colors, and we clustered them through our algorithm into different types of activity. So the red, green, blue, yellow here, for example, might be different types of malware, different types of phishing attack, different types of ransomware, and we're able to actually collect those in real time. Now, we did that then for thousands of good samples and thousands of bad samples, malware, benignware. The green area here you can see on the screen is effectively our heat map of what behavior looked like for malware, for benignware, sorry, cleanware. And the red area is what behavior looked like for malware. So we created thousands of these samples, and the lights you can see flicking here are for a new executable that starts running on your computer. We're taking the per second behavior, and the algorithm is working out where does this actually sit in the grand scheme of things in terms of what we've previously seen as good behavior or bad behavior. Again, not looking at any code at all, literally just looking at the behavior on the system, which is difficult to hide. And what we can see here is that it gives you for every second, does it look like it's good behavior or bad behavior? It puts all that sequence together and effectively will give you a decision as to whether what it's seen is good behavior or bad behavior. So almost like a behavioral-based antivirus, which was good. And it was a nice step forward, and it meant that we could detect things in real time that were not code-based. The next step for us was to say, hang on a minute then, we had to run these samples until completion, which means we've actually now been cyber attacked and we have to remedy the situation. Can we do something that's a little bit more proactive? So what you can see here in this example is a neural network, which effectively, to dumb it down, effectively means it's representing the connections in the similar way that a brain might make connections in terms of what's been learned over time. And what we're doing here is feeding in the same data every second, different types of activity happening on your computer. And you can see on the far right-hand side of the screen is making a decision in the algorithm every second. Is it malicious? Is it benign? With a certain level of confidence. And at the end of 5 seconds, it's giving you an answer. And what we're able to determine that actually we were able to detect ransomware within 4 seconds at 94% accuracy, which is totally game changing in terms of being able to actually respond to ransomware and reduce file encryption by using a fairly simple, actually, machine learning approach. But it's a major step forward, actually, in how we can deal with these types of activity. Final thing I just wanted to cover briefly was, and I put this in because it's very relevant to the news at the moment, is how secure is this security? So if we've got a machine learning based approach to attack detection, how secure is that and how can you manipulate it? So I've just provided for effect here to two examples. The left-hand side is benign and malicious activity and represented in terms of machine learning output. And you can quite clearly see there's a difference between the malicious and the benign. They're not all clustered together, but there are clear clusters. On the right-hand side, what we've done is manipulated the data to look slightly different. So it looks like we're doing slightly different things on the computer, but effectively achieving the same outcome. And we're able to confuse the algorithm by actually pushing some of that behavior that's effectively malicious into the benign area. So we're able to confuse the algorithm. So what it shows us is there is limitations with AI in terms of its security, and that needs more work as well. So there's another area example we're currently working on is how can we detect and respond to attacks on machine learning in real time? So as I said, very much a whistle-stop tour, and I'm happy to take any questions later. Or in future, by all means, get in touch. But at this point, I will pause and I will hand over to my colleague Yulia, who will pick up on our Centre of Cybersecurity Education Excellence. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sharing my slides at the moment. I'm Dr. Yulia Cherdantseva, and I lead the Centre for Cybersecurity Education. And before I start explaining more about the Center for Education, I just wanted to explain the reasoning behind it and why it's so important. On the left-hand side here in red, you can see the factors or the argument that we usually use as a sort of fear factor. That's 90% of organizations experiencing high exposure to cyber risks, and very clearly due to the high level of digital transformation recently, nearly half of businesses in the UK see a catastrophic cyber attack as a top scenario on the risk register. On the positive side, there is a better side of cybersecurity, and we have research showing that well over half businesses see cybersecurity as a business enabler and as a revenue enabler. And there is clear indication that organizations with more mature approach to cybersecurity are generating higher revenue, and there is a good evidence for that. So that's on the positive side. So on both sides, cybersecurity is critically important to any organization. And in this sense, we couldn't underestimate the importance of cybersecurity skills and professionals with the skills in this area. So I'm showing you a lot of statistics, which I'm not going into. The main message, the main objective here is to show that a lot of reports over the last 10 to 7 years demonstrated that there is a significant skills shortage and skills gap in cyber. The recent report of the Departments of Culture, Media and Sport is that half of businesses, private sector businesses, have a basic technical cybersecurity skills gap, and third, have a more advanced technical skills gap. Effectively, there aren't enough skilled cybersecurity professionals to defend our systems, including our critical systems. Over the last several years, there were several initiatives globally in the US, Australia, in establishing centers in cybersecurity education. Typically, it's certification that comes from the government, and in this way, they're encouraging academic institutions, universities to really pay attention to cybersecurity and establish new good quality, high quality educational programs. The same happened in the UK, probably slightly later than in Australia and the US. Nevertheless, now we have a new schema of recognition from the National Cybersecurity Center that Pete has already mentioned. And there is a small number, only 10 universities in the UK who are currently recognized at the gold standard as an academic center of excellence in cyber education, and very proudly from last year. We are holding this gold award And most importantly, we one of the only 3 Russell Group universities in the UK who hold both recognitions as a centre in research and the Centre of Excellence in Cyber Education. So on the photograph here, you can see me and the other directors of Centres of Excellence in Cyber Education. And it's amazing chance for us to be part of this community, learning the best practices and contributing to the best practices across the UK in cyber education. The students become more and more aware about these recognitions, and they really look at it and ask questions whether we have this recognition. The recognition as Centre in Cyber Education is based on the fact that we have 2 programs in master programs in cybersecurity. Both are now fully certified by the National Cybersecurity Centre. This is the highest level of recognition. As Pete mentioned, MSc Cybersecurity and Technology has been established only very recently, but we already had significant successes with the program. And we have funded places on this program, thanks to Cardiff Capital Region, CTDL, to the funding they provide. We are able to offer 15 funded places to students. And it would be appropriate to mention here, if either yourselves or your friends, colleagues, or children are interested in undertaking further education in cybersecurity, we have some amazing opportunities. And when we share the slides, you will have access to the links and all the information about the programs. So the program, as already myself and Pete mentioned, it's funded by Cardiff Capital Region, and our academic and skills partner, industry skills partner is PwC, Ethical Hacking and Cybersecurity team. And on the photographs here, you can see our amazing team. And on the right-hand side, it's our team winning an award as the best academic program last year from FinTech Awards Wales. So it's an amazing recognition from the industry, just the first year program running, and we had that award. It was absolutely amazing experience and recognition for the program, for the quality of the program. We have amazing facilities for the students on the third part, and for our researchers as well. It's an investment from HEFQ. And we have cyber physical test beds, which are literally located next door to our teaching labs, and students have opportunity to use these facilities in the modules and for the research projects as well. We have a very extensive program of cybersecurity outreach activities. Anything you can think of in this area, we are probably doing. We have a coding club run by the School of Computer Science. It includes general coding skills, computer science skills, and cybersecurity as a significant component of our program. We are part of the Cyber First national program, again led by the National Cybersecurity Centre. And earlier this year, we've been privileged to be able to host the Cyber First Girls Competition event, bringing together 11 schools to compete in the regional final. So it was very, very rewarding experience, I think, and definitely seeing all the talented girls being interested in cyber. On the photographs here, you could see our regular activities that we run for year 7, year 8, year 9 students, bringing children from young people from local schools, inspiring them into careers in computer science and cybersecurity. We run awareness activities for staff, students, and the general public. We have a range of cybersecurity awareness days when we share our knowledge and expertise and educate general public about the use of passwords, how to set a strong password, how to protect your digital footprint, etc. And as well as that, we run cybersecurity career awareness days, once again inspiring young people and informing them about careers in cybersecurity. As I said, we have very active programs. Some of them already took place, for example, digital entrepreneurship workshop, but we are quite open to running them again on demand if there is any interest. Cyber First Adventure, as you can see, it's for 13, 14-year-old students. Cybersecurity awareness workshops, we run them in person and online. It's open to general public. Cybersecurity career awareness days, and they take place on an annual basis. So if there is any interest in these events, please feel free to get in touch with me, or you can follow me on Twitter, and that's probably the best way to learn about upcoming events. Pete has already mentioned Cyber Innovation Hub, which has an ambition of creating more than 25 new cybersecurity startups, commercializing research ideas. But it also has a skills component with a plan of upskilling 1,500 people in the region into cybersecurity, upskilling and reskilling, attracting really people with different backgrounds into cybersecurity, trying to fill in the gap in this area. Currently, we're in a process of running survey amongst prospective participants and industry to understand what the needs in the region are for the skills, and based on this research activity, we will develop a plan of activities, provision of short CPD type bootcamp style training activities on cybersecurity. Once again, I provided tag for Cyber Innovation Hub on this slide, and you can see it later as well. In terms of our future aspirations, we aim to interest more young people in cybersecurity, attracting them to careers in this area, delivering high quality undergraduate and postgraduate programs in cyber, with cyber as a component, offering upskilling bootcamp opportunities, and engaging, of course, with general public to share our cybersecurity knowledge, and engaging with international partners to share good practice. There are plenty of opportunities to get involved and support the Center for Cyber Education or benefit from our activities. So I've mentioned some opportunities here, whether yourselves or your organizations are interested to be involved or engaged, please do get in touch with us. And to make sure that you know where to find us, so there are various opportunities to learn more about our activities. Thank you, and I will stop sharing the slides now.
Diolch yn fawr. Thanks very much, Pete and Yulia. Lots to think about there, and I personally find it quite comforting that we have all this work going on and we're so actively involved, and we work so closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is there to protect us, and it is protecting us constantly against cyber threats, which is good to know. And if we come to just one or two of the pre-submitted questions, there's one about the attacks that we're aware of and we hear about on democracy, and how your work involved in defending against that kind of presumably state-sponsored threats to democratic processes?
So, so from the research side of cybersecurity, I don't think necessarily the Centre for Cybersecurity Research is, but I suppose it's an opportunity to point to the Crime and Security Institute, which certainly is, which looks at online campaigns, interference with voting and electoral campaigns, for example. There's another one of the university institutes. Yeah, they definitely look at that.
So one of the later questions is about the role of social sciences, and I guess that's where that comes in, is it?
Certainly is, yes. So that's led by criminologists in terms of the looking at the online misinformation, disinformation, but equally we also have criminologists in the Cybersecurity Centre who are looking at online fraud and how people organise to communicate around online fraud, etc. But on that point, I suppose it's also worth noting we have a couple of good scholars in the School of Law and Politics who are really interested in international relations and how that plays into cyber attacks. So trying to understand capability and readiness at a nation level to understand how to set up effectively an NCSC type model, a National Security Centre type model that can help advise citizens and businesses. And they do a lot of work across Europe and Africa in that space, actually.
Great, thanks. Okay, one that is slightly more, but perhaps on the technical side. How are adversarial techniques developing? I suppose that's kind of attack techniques, isn't it? What are some recent exploitation strategies, and what work has been done to combat these?
So I can certainly comment on one of those. I mean, we've seen an uplift in, I suppose, what you might call disruptive attacks from a single point of entry. So if you look at the Move It hack, this week, for example, it's trying to do, create the most disruption by taking out one single entity, and we've seen this happen a number of times. And obviously, it undermines the whole business processes that are wrapped around it, and has a big impact for minimum actual effort in that respect. And the issue with that is it comes down to people's readiness and not being a low-hanging fruit. And so we do a lot around this. Is actually coming back to the education side rather than the research side as well, in terms of educating companies, small and large supply chain companies, on keeping their systems patched and up to date and so on. So we do a lot of work on promoting that sort of effort as well.
I think it's worth mentioning here that ransomware is still something that organizations need to be quite aware of, although there might be sort of a ransomware fatigue approaching us at some point in the future. But nevertheless, all organizations need to stay vigilant, and National Cybersecurity Center provides quite a good advice. And I think picking up on the supply chain, and it's important that all businesses, whether large or small, pay attention to cybersecurity. For example, one of our research projects was focused on developing a guide for SMEs, for small businesses, on cybersecurity, helping them to develop an environment where they can make well-informed decisions about investing into cybersecurity. So it's important that we support sort of all elements of the supply chain in having strong cybersecurity, that all of the chain remains strong and secure.
I take it it's not all highly technical stuff. It's things like educating people not to click on unknown links and not to leave USB sticks lying around, that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, definitely coming down from the education side, and it comes back to that overlap with technical then as well. So if you look at, for example, Gartner trends, one of the Gartner cyber trends of the next few years is the move towards more human-centric cybersecurity, which effectively means we all have to use technology, as we are now, to do our jobs, and humans are often the target of being the fault, if you like, the human error in terms of letting cyber attacks into a system. But ultimately, people have to use the technology, so it's imposed on them. There's nothing they can do about it. They can't work around it. So actually, the onus is really on the design of processes and technology that enable people to work in a secure way, while not forming activities that allow cyber attacks into the system. So there's a bit of a shift needed, really, to designing new technologies and applications of the future that keep people in mind and how they work, and not just the sort of interfaces, but the way in which people work remotely, from home, from coffee shops, on shared Wi-Fi in different international regions. That all really needs to be factored into design and next generation of applications that we use on a day-to-day.
There is a question here about artificial intelligence, AI, which you did address, and wanting to know if it's a good thing, can it be kept safe, or is it running away from us? I guess the real question there is, do we get into a sort of arms race where we have to have better AI than the attackers do, and it ends up the AI kind of working between itself almost? Is that a danger?
I think so. Well, that's certainly where we're looking in terms of our research, is to try and understand how, if you take the example of strategic games like Go, for example, that is the DeepMind developed, effectively ways in which a machine could beat a human, and then effectively ways in which machine could train a machine that could then beat it at the game. Strategic games like that. Ultimately, cybersecurity, rules are slightly different, but ultimately it's about playing one off against the other, and we do a lot of research on that in terms of training AI that can identify vulnerabilities and understand, if you like, what the strategic defense of an attack might look like in real time. So to come to that AI question, is a big topic of debate at the moment. We've seen over the past few months senior industry leaders call for a pause to the development of AI, which is just not practical. It's out there now. This is a classic technological innovation cycle where the technology is out there. It's in the ecosystem, and you can't pull it back. The challenge with new technology is always security by design, and typically we always fail to do that. We put the technology out there because we can, and then we try and fix it. Fortunately, there's been a bit of a flag now, though, with AI and this issue around safety and security. So, we've got the opportunity now to make sure it's safe and secure before and during its integration into frontline services. So hopefully we've got on top of that, early enough, if you like, to try and prevent its widespread integration before it's secured.
Absolutely, it's quite a big issue for us at the university, of course. There's a question on digital forensics and whether that comes into it, or is that more one for climate security?
No, digital forensics. So Dr. Shankang Lee, he's one of the academics in the team. He's big into his digital forensics research. You can find him on the university website. He's a good guy to reach out to if you're interested in forensics. Okay, so that's an important part of what we do as well. And one for you, I think, Yulia, what can we do to encourage more people, young people, to get involved with cybersecurity? And you did show a slide there, and you did mention actually the involvement of girls and women in this. Is that an important aspect of it for you as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think the good sign is that a lot of organizations now really try to encourage more people into cybersecurity. We can see our industry partners working in this space and other institutions as well. So what we do, for example, on our side, we run cybersecurity career days because cyber career is a fairly new thing, and school teachers won't really be able to explain to young people what career entails. So it's offering opportunities to young people to learn more about cybersecurity if they choose it as a career, what is the career progression looks like, what roles are available there. And given the infancy really of this discipline, even the sector itself is not yet kind of firm on the number of roles and different types of roles, but making sure that we inform young people about the opportunities. And really it's an amazing and exciting field to be in, really staying on top of the kind of latest trends, making sure that you are aware about the latest risks and vulnerabilities. So it is an interesting field to be in. And when we bring young people to the School of Computer Science, to Abacus, our amazing building, you can see their smiling faces, and they're really excited because they learn something new. And often they would say, we never knew that was a possibility. And 13, 15-year-old young people, they living saying, we really want to come back and study cyber here. So it's just going out there, making sure that we communicate and share our knowledge and skills with young people. That really makes a big difference. And we really see our industry partners doing the same. And I think over the time, it will lead to positive changes. Cybersecurity does suffer from underrepresentation of female experts and other groups as well, ethnic minorities, for example, and people from economically sort of deprived backgrounds are not necessarily well represented. And we are trying to engage through various opportunities, through various initiatives with these underrepresented groups. For example, Cardiff Commitment, they have a program of engaging with schools in those areas which wouldn't naturally, sort of where young people wouldn't naturally go into computer science or cybersecurity careers. It's just making sure that we have representation and opportunity to go and talk to students at those schools as well. On the positive side, cybersecurity as a sector does quite well in terms of being inclusive and open to neurodivergent people. So the percentage of neurodivergent people in cybersecurity is higher than the national, than the average national level.
And of course, the point is about all this that you find you don't find talent just in one group or demographic. It's absolutely distributed, and sometimes concentrated in underrepresented groups. Even that can happen, can't it? Yeah. Thanks. So some very nice questions coming in. Keep them coming. Thanks. Here's an interesting one. Is the UK at the forefront of cybersecurity, or other countries? Do we work in partnership well with other countries? I think we can guess the ones we don't work with and the ones we probably do work with, but where do we sit in the pantheon then, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at most I guess league tables, for want of a better phrase, in terms of cybersecurity, UK is typically up there in the top 3 or 5. I think we're well structured out from GCHQ with the NCSC wrapped around it, and then based on that, there's a lot of communication with the companies who are resident in the UK. Academic institutes are well organized. The NCSC have been very good at, if you like, offering badges for universities to respond with quality research and education programs, which is very, really sensible and simple but effective way of doing things, but also means that GCHQ have got direct access to the best academic expertise, which is really, really good as well. So, cooperation wise, yes, we've got the sort of Five Eyes relationships, so good communication links across those. And even here at the university, we're doing a lot of stuff. So Yulia's been out to Canada recently. I've been out in the States. We've got a new funded project with Australia, looking at the Internet of Energy and energy distribution infrastructure and how that's vulnerable across international borders. So all sorts of stuff like that. There's a lot going on in the UK with the rest of the world.
And the same on the education side as well. So UK is a very attractive destination for international students in the area of cybersecurity, particularly due to infrastructure that we have for supporting teaching in cybersecurity. So as one of the examples, Cybersecurity Body of Knowledge, which is a project which is funded by the National Cybersecurity Programme, led by the UK by a collaboration of different academic institutions led by Bristol. And as Pete mentioned, I've recently been on a tour around different countries, and really UK is leading in defining curriculum for cybersecurity. No other countries would have such a detailed curriculum for cybersecurity.
Okay. We've got a couple of minutes left, but only a couple of minutes. So there's one interesting one about organisations and how people behave in them. Any thoughts on how to combat the situation where security precautions make work difficult, and this causes users to go around them, develop their own shadow IT, and thus increase unknown risk to organisations? Interesting one. Yeah.
It's a classic scenario. It's a nightmare scenario, but it comes back to my earlier point around developing technology solutions that work with people. So actually, we end of last year launched a centre of excellence in human-centric cybersecurity with Airbus. So Prof. Phil Morgan, who's in our School of Psychology, actually undertook a secondment with Airbus to effectively design a security policy culture, if you like, within Airbus. 139,000 European employees, massive task during COVID as well, which is quite interesting. Just basically, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and people will try and work their way around it. So it's a real challenge, I think, still unaddressed, really largely in the technology sector, to try and ensure both technology processes and the way in people are expected to work with those technologies is supporting of the way in which they need to do stuff. People will find the path of least resistance and the easiest way to do things. We're wired to do that. So we need to make sure that, what we put in place for people to work is the best way and most optimum way to do things, which is really hard, especially in larger organizations.
Okay, thanks. We're almost out of time, but maybe very quickly, there's one on working with the NHS and the private sector. Remember, there was an attack on the NHS systems a few years ago, wasn't there? Do you do anything in that area?
So actually, that's a really good example of the ransomware example we were talking about earlier. The attack on the NHS was WannaCry spread rapidly through the NHS, largely again due to legacy unpatched solutions that were there that could have been patched and not attacked. But that's an issue. It's the NHS. They're busy saving people's lives. They're putting money into that, and obviously it's a trade-off between your IT and your support for that and everything else. But yeah, we work. We're very problem focused. So health, energy, transportation, financial technology and services. You know, all of those are really relevant to us, and we're a very, very applied group. You know, we're not particularly theoretical. We're very much interested in solving real world problems and looking to, you know, give impact to our partners.
Okay, we're going to have to stop there, unfortunately. We are out of time. It always seems to go by so quickly. There was a nice question about what maybe Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden might be talking about when they discuss AI. So maybe we can give that some thought. But thank you both very much indeed for joining us and telling us about your really exciting and super important education and research activities. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, we will follow up with you, even if it's speculating on the inner thoughts of Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden. It's really a question about what are the big issues that they might want to tackle on AI. But thank you very much indeed for joining us. You will receive an email in the next week with a copy of the recording and links to register for future events. So this is the last, not only my last research showcase, it's the last one of this academic year for us. There'll be a break over the summer, but they'll be back in September with a new series. So please do look out for the details of those on our email and social media. And if anyone watching would like to get involved with Cardiff University, whether it's volunteering time to help our students or helping us to fundraise for our research, please do follow the link in the comments box, which has just gone up there. Diolch a hwyl fawr. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.